Welcome to Epic Saga Society, a podcast that travels beyond the stars and realms to the worlds we know and love. I am Corlys Valerian's long-lost brother and Maester Orwell's cousin, Calvin Hamilton.
And I am suspected of being a bastard from Dorne, but I got silver hair, so that's kind of weird. Carlos Alatorre. We're excited to have you with us as we delve into the sci-fi and fantasy franchises from the books, movies, shows, video games, and really anything else we feel like talking about.
Yes, in each episode, we explore the iconic stories and universes of beloved franchises like Star Wars, Dune, Marvel, and many more, delving into the characters, themes, and epic moments that make them unforgettable.
So get ready, because over the next 8 episodes, we're visiting the world of Westeros for one of our favorite sagas, The House of the Dragon, Season 2. And this one will be Episode 2, Rhaenyra the Cruel.
So, let's get into this episode. So, the episode starts off with the immediate aftermath of the beheading of the baby Prince Jaehaerys. The Kingsguard are rounding up all the small folk, and we see, King Aegon, he's going crazy with anger and grief. And we cut to where Otto Hightower, ever the pragmatist, is assuring Alicent that the traitor is going to be found and dealt with. And then we also see that Aegon, he's yelling at the council. He's asking them where they all were when this happened. And then he looks at Criston Cole specifically, and he says, "And where were you?" And then, Criston Cole, his line self says,
Yeah.
I was in bed, We know what you were doing. You
With
sure
that
were in
guilty
bed,
look on his face.
Exactly. Yeah, you were in bed. And then Aegon, as he's going crazy, he's shouting that it was definitely Rhaenyra. It had to have been Rhaenyra. Why are they even wondering who the culprit is? And then we see that Larys Strong comes in and said that they found the culprit. And then Otto Hightower comes in again with his strategy and says that it doesn't even matter if Rhaenyra did it or not, that they're going to blame this all on Rhaenyra and Team Black. And Otto also says that it'd be wise for them to do a funeral procession throughout the streets of King's Landing, so that, in his words, the realm itself must see the sorrow of the crowned. And so we see a couple things. We shift to the procession beginning, and then we also see that blood has been captured. And he immediately confesses that Daemon Targaryen is the one who hired him. Yeah, immediately he's like, "It was Daemon. It was Daemon. He did it.
Yeah.
He's the one that told me to do it."
As soon as he took out those tools, he's just like, hey, look it. He paid me. It was half now, half later. Like, I'll tell you where he lives too.
Exactly. He's like, "I'm telling. My life might be ended. I ain't going out like that. I don't care." Which is funny. But we see Aegon walks in with a weapon, strikes him, and then during the funeral procession, we see Alicent and Helena on top, and the body of this poor child, open casket style, being paraded throughout the streets of King's Landing with a herald in front saying, "Behold the works of Rhaenyra Targaryen, the Kinslayer." And so, carriage hits a rock, and then
tactic. Brilliant tactic.
Seriously. And then, it's a rock, we see, the small folks start to swarm Helena, and then this overwhelms her a bit. So,
oh man, that poor woman. Yeah, go ahead.
I know, seriously, she didn't want any of this. And Alicent mentioned that earlier too.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Aegon's current state of grief? Do you think it's genuine? Because we haven't seen him be really at his best throughout the series, but do you think his grief is genuine?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I think it is. We see briefly in the last episode, like he's a lot of things. This guy is hard. He's a hard pill to swallow, but honestly, something that I saw that I thought in the last episode was he was kind of a good father. I think he was really trying to be the father maybe that he didn't think he had with Viserys. So I think he's trying to be that with his kids. And I mean, yeah, he's kind of like this giant immature kid as well, always like screaming and yelling. And the fact that he was in the beginning of this scene, he was like, I declare war. You know, he's like freaking out, and
Yeah.
he's destroying his dad's model, like destroying the old kingdom, you know, like the old way is gone. And so we see all that, but still, like there was an aspect of him that I just really was like, he seems like he's a fun father. So yeah, I think he really is really is distraught. He's torn apart by seeing his kid who's dead. On top of that, he has no heir now. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I gotta agree. And I think I was saying in last episode that Aegon is one of the few characters that, I think we've ever seen in the Game of Thrones universe that shows us true, genuine emotion. Last
mhm.
episode, it was like joy, like seeing the joy of his son
Yeah,
in the small
pony
council
ride.
meeting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And now we see him genuinely like sad and upset that his child is gone. So, yeah,
yeah.
pretty sad.
Jeez, it is pretty heartbreaking. Honestly, baby Jacaerys. Is that his
Yeah.
name?
Mm-hmm.
Jaharis. Sorry, baby Jaharis.
Harris.
With the sewed neck. Oh
Uh,
my god, I didn't think they were going to show that, and I was
no.
like, oh my god, this it's just really ugly to look at, you know.
No, seriously, and the Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, they're not afraid to go there. I was
Oh
just like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
And I'm like, was that an actual child they were using? Like, I think so. They just like put
yeah,
like makeup
right.
on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Shout out to
Yeah,
that child actor, like acting like they were really like asleep in a deep sleep. That's pretty good acting on the
yeah, I
child's
know.
life.
Props to that kid for letting them cut his head off and then putting
Oh
it back
my
on.
god.
No, I'm good. No, I will say before we go to the next one, I just will say I laughed out loud when Aegon screams at Kristen, "A bed!" Like just screams the. I don't know. I just he had some great quotes. Honestly, bitch queen of the bastards. I loved it. Okay, so then Team Black, they tell Rhaenyra what happened because it's pretty terrible and news moves fast in Westeros, and the small folk are blaming what happened, and the lords of Westeros are blaming this horrific assassination attempt or actual assassination on Rhaenyra. So Rhaenyra is like, I didn't do anything wrong, but the council, they seem kind of skeptical about this. Of course, during the entire council, she looks over to Daemon, and Daemon has just the most smug look on his face, right? It
Yeah.
kind of looks like he's kind of hiding something, but he kind of wants everyone to know that he did something. But he's like,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Like he
like,
didn't care. He was like, yeah, that
yeah,
that child is gone. Like, bro.
yeah, exactly. It's a good plan. I didn't do it, but I don't know. Maybe I did. It's like, that's kind of like what a serial killer does, you know, like where they really want the attention of, hey, look at what I planned, look what I did. But, you
Right.
know, still, I don't want them to know it was me, so I don't go to jail. Like, that's kind of the face he had. And so Rhaenyra realizes this. We cut to their private chamber where they get into this massive fight. And Daemon outright confesses, yeah, he sent some people to kill Aemon. And I think he says something along the lines of, I sent them to do the queen's vengeance or something along those lines. Um, yeah, really just shifting it over to like, hey, you wanted this. But he says, you know, they misunderstood. There was a miscommunication there. Not my fault was basically his attitude. Not my fault. I paid them. They had the wrong I gave them the right instructions and they didn't do it right. So, yeah.
This guy. This guy.
Yeah, no. After a pretty intense fight, Rhaenyra says he can't be trusted. Rhaenyra tells Daemon he really hasn't let go of wanting the crown, and he's using her as a tool for revenge and power. The discussion ends with Daemon storming out of the room and leaving Rhaenyra in tears. He basically just gets in his car and drives off to go get a pack of cigarettes or I don't know what.
He said, "I'm
So
out. I'm
Rhaenyra,
out of here."
yeah,
Just like a guy.
wow, yeah,
A guy will always
I
leave
can't.
after an argument. They'll just like leave the whole city. Man.
Yeah, Rhaenyra, she asked Bela, hey, I need you to take your dragon and her dragon's moon dancer and head over to King's Landing to do some reconnaissance of Team Green's movements. And at this time, Damon has taken off with Caraxes to Harrenhal. So, so yeah, what'd you think of this scene, Calvin? What'd you think of this fight between Rhaenyra and Aemond? And I'm Aemond. I'm sorry. What am I thinking? Damon. Um, and I also want to ask, like, after this fight, like, it really got me thinking, why why did Rhaenyra marry this guy?
Mm.
Like for all the problems that he had. You know what I really thought when I was thinking about Rhaenyra? I was really thinking of Padme and Anakin. Like, yeah, Anakin's got
Mm.
all these red flags, right? All these red flags. Anakin, all the attention's always on that guy. But it's like, what about Padme? Why was she so drawn to this guy? And so it made me think, why is Rhaenyra drawn to this guy after this fight? Like, what is it about this guy? Like that she fell in love with and that she's just putting up with? Tell me.
Man, yeah, that's a good question. So, to your first question, the scene was just incredible. I definitely mixed feelings with watching the scene because I think a part of me wants, Rhaenyra to win and wants Rhaenyra and Daemon to be cool. But the acting, my goodness, like I said this in the
Oh,
last
yeah.
episode, and I will say it again. The acting that Emma Darcy and Matt Smith and the chemistry that they have
Yes.
screen, I
Yes.
forget that they are actors
Hard
and
yes.
I like look at them like this is Rhaenyra Targaryen and this is
Yeah.
Daemon
Rhaenyra
Targaryen.
and
I
Damon.
forget that this
Yeah.
is that like when they're in like
Uncle and
their
niece.
yeah, like and their chemistry is so electric. Like you feel like it's
Yes.
real, like they're actually a couple that's arguing. Like I get a little triggered. I'm like, ugh, it's a little too real.
Yes. You're like, I gotta stop. I gotta say something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like the scene was just like incredible, right? And I think it is symptomatic, of the fact that Damon always wanted to be king and he's, struggling. Like of course he did bend the knee to Rhaenyra, he did marry Rhaenyra, but secretly he's always wanted to be king, right? So this is and we kind of saw a little bit of that when he was talking to Rhaenys last episode. This is all stemming from the fact that he feels like Viserys gave the crown to his daughter when he should have given it to his brother, him, right? And so, it made me think about all that. But, what does Rhaenyra see in Daemon? I think, when you look at some of the scenes that they had together in season one, where Damon always was kind of looking at her, and let's be honest, Targaryens tend to be a little horny, and I
Yeah.
guess in this case, horny for one another, but they've
Oh
always
yeah.
been kind of like giving each other looks from like day one, right? And like there was always that tension that was built from the very beginning. But I think that Rhaenyra sees in him like a side of herself, right? Like what she could be if she were a man, like if like she were more free. Number one, and I think she's attracted
Mm,
to like the bad boy.
okay.
I think she's like attracted to the
Yeah,
bad
I can
boy, the
see
typical
that.
bad boy. Like, he's like a hothead, hot shot. It's like bad boy, like, like
Yeah.
daring, like not willing, not afraid to like fight. I think she's attracted to that as well. And also, like, I think deep down she knows and believes that he has her back, right? That like
Yeah.
he does love her, and like deep down he's like, oh, I'll still fight for you. It comes into doubt a bit in this scene, but I think like deep down she's like, nah, like she just he matches her energy so well, just that like that fire that they both have in them. I think that's what it is, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So you're thinking, is he like a ride or die type of partner, or do you think, when the chips are down, he might go a different way, but he's got like a sense of honor? What are you thinking?
It's hard because this scene made me really think that he loves the crown or the idea of having the crown more than Rhaenyra, right? So
Yeah, I
as
see
much as I
that.
want to say that
I
he's
see
riding,
that.
like I would have said that in season one, but now after
Yeah.
seeing this, I'm like, oh, he's still holding on to that crown. Like he's not all right to die. He's like the crown first, then like you can come along if you want. That's what it makes me think.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of seems like he's like, what should happen is you should be my wife when I'm king, kind of
Exactly.
thing. And,
Exactly.
and amending the statement I said about Anakin and Padme, I just realized the difference is that Anakin was the baby and Padme
Mm.
was the older one. So there
Yep.
was kind of this motherly energy, right? But with Rhaenyra and Daemon, Rhaenyra is the young one, but yet she was still always a little bit more mature than him. And but like you say, it I tend to agree with what you're saying, and that she probably likes that bad boy. We saw her interactions with Allison where she kind of scoffed at a lot of the etiquette and the protocol and all
Yeah.
all the stuff that they had to do. And so I feel like in Damon she sees that kind of wild side. And I think, like with most young ladies at some point in their life, there is this aspect, and I mean guys too, with their first girlfriends or whatever, if they're hard to control, it's like, oh, I can change them. And so I'm wondering if she's kind of getting that. She even says something about that, like, when I was a child it was one way, but now it's like,
Yep.
I don't know if you're on my team. So yeah,
Yeah.
I could see it.
No, yeah, definitely. We'll see what's to come with them because he was not too happy when he left, and nor was she. Poor girls in tears. Yeah, so scene three, we go back to King's Landing, and again, we're still seeing some of the aftermath of the funeral procession and the death of baby Jaehaerys. And so
Mhm.
we see Kristen Cole walks into the Princess Jaehaerys' bedroom. Now it's just her bedroom since her twin brother is gone, and they're dismantling the crib. And I'm just like, man, like, can you give the family a chance to grieve? It's like,
I
damn, they
know,
just buried
right?
the body, like, already taken down in bed. My goodness. That was kind of
Body's
fast,
still
no?
warm.
Right. No,
Yeah.
seriously. Stitches haven't, yeah, never mind. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it cuts to the next day, and we see Kristen Cole. He, he goes to the King's Guard, and he talks to Sir Eric Cargill, who's twin brother to Eric Cargill
Yeah.
on Team Black. And he
So
just
he talks
wants,
to
so
Eric with an A,
Eric
right?
with an
With
A,
an A.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here Sir Eric is minding his business, eating his breakfast, doing what
Oh,
a King's
oh my
Guard
God.
should
Yes.
do, right? And then Kristen Cole just walks up behind him, and he looks at his clothes and admonishes him for having his white cloak soiled with mud, and he orders him to change it immediately, basically like bullying him. And then Sir
This,
Eric is like,
yeah,
"Yo,
this
like,
guy.
right?" He's like, "Can I
Yeah.
eat?" And then the conversation shifts where Kristen starts to blame Sir Eric for the death of the prince and starts to
Ugh.
ask Eric where he was at the time of the assassination.
It's the
Like,
ultimate gaslighter.
no, literally. And so, like, no one's responding, and people are looking, no one's responding. And so, you know, Eric turns it back on him. He's like, "Well, where were you?"
Yeah,
And then it gets,
the best quote. Yeah.
yeah,
Where
I
were
know.
you, Lord Commander? Like,
Right.
bitch, don't come at me.
Exactly. Like, isn't your job? Right. And so, then Kristen continues to gaslight him and says, "Yeah, like, yeah, your twin brother is with Rhaenyra. So
Oh, I know, right?
how do we know that, like, you're not in on it? Like, how do we know that you're not
Yeah.
working with your brother, right?" And so basically, Kristen goes on and says that, like, the actions of your twin have brought, dishonor upon yourself and the Kingsguard. You have to go fix this, go restore it. You have to go to Dragonstone and kill
Oh my God.
Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Sir Eric is like pointing out all the things that could go wrong, why this is not a good idea. But Kristen Cole's going so hard that he's like, you know what? Fine, I'll go through it. And he agrees to go to Dragonstone and kill Rhaenyra Targaryen. So I just got a simple question for you, man. What the heck is going on with Kristen Cole? What is this guy's issue? Can we get like some sort of like psychoanalysis on this
This
man?
is
Because he's a
the
menace. He's a
question.
menace. He's a
Yeah,
menace.
he's ridiculous, man. I even wrote in my notes, this dude needs to die. Like, I got so pissed with this, how he was going in on this guy. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, dude, let the guy eat. Like, he's
Right.
probably been on call all day. I don't know. That pissed me off. Honestly, when he started talking about Eric with an A, his brother, so Cole is talking to Eric about his brother, Eric with an E,
Yep.
in Dragonstone. It honestly, it took me back to when Damon was doing the same thing to Eric with an E and Dragonstone, saying, "Hey, how do I know you're not a traitor? What if this traitorous stuff doesn't run through your blood because your
Mm-hmm.
brother is serving the pretender, Aegon?" And so I kind of feel like it's just Damon and Kristen are both projecting whatever issue that they're going on that they have inside, whatever it is, whatever inner turmoil is going on, they're projecting it on whoever it is the easiest target. And right now it's the only person who has kin who is like considered a traitor on the other side. You know, they have like traitors kin and both so that's what I picked up from that, because this guy obviously has some serious guilt. And it didn't start there. You know, this started way back in season 1. So
Yeah.
I got a problem with this fucking guy.
Hey, Kristen Cole is messed up. Like, he does need to die. Like, I
He's,
haven't felt like this about a character since maybe Ramsay and Joffrey. I was gonna say Joffrey, but Ramsay in the original Game of Thrones series came after. So
yeah.
like
Oh
since
yeah.
Ramsay, you know, like
Yeah.
I haven't felt like this since Ramsay. I'm like, this guy needs to go. So I hope eventually we get some sort of satisfying death.
And what's funny is that Joffrey was an easily hateable character, right?
Hmm.
And Ramsay like took that a step further. Not only was he hateable, but he was scary, right?
Yeah.
He was a bit intimidating in this kind of psychotic, like psychopathic way. This dude is just pisses you off. Like Kristen Cole just like pisses you off. He's just annoying as hell. Like he's always talking shit. He's always like blaming everybody, and he's just kind of conniving and
Yeah.
salty all the time, just because Rhaenyra
For no
didn't
reason.
run off with him when he asked. So
Seriously. And then here's my thing, man. Like, you're getting some from Allison. Like, what do you have to be mad for?
yeah,
Come on.
yeah, chill out. You should be
Should,
happy
yeah, shouldn't that placate you a little bit? Like, set your mind at ease? Apparently not.
a little bit. Yeah, if that's not working, I don't know. This nothing will. I don't know. So anyway, all right. So now we cut to the cliffs of Dragonstone, and we see Jace and Bela talking about their families. Obviously, Daemon took off to Harrenhal, so Balin is wondering where he went. But they start getting into Jace's opinion about his family, and he actually starts asking about his father, who is Bela's uncle, Laenor. But then we get into Harwin Strong, and this is the first time you really start
Yes.
to, hear out loud that maybe Jace has an idea that he is a bastard, that
Yep.
his father was actually Harwin Strong. And it's the first time you kind of, he's not outright saying it, but it is the first time that we're getting a hint that they've accepted the truth that
Yep.
he is a Strong. Baylor reassures Jace that his father loved him, and he in turn admits to missing his late younger brother, Luke. Rest in peace, Luke.
He didn't.
Now,
That poor boy. That poor boy, Luke.
yeah,
Don't get me
the
started.
way that, yeah, that's a
Oh,
terrible way to, oh, God. So now we cut to Aemond, who spent, I guess, his entire day in a brothel on the Street of Silk. And he was actually there when Prince Jaehaerys was killed. So he's talking to one of the madams there. Her name is Madame Sylvie. And I think this is also the woman who, correct me if I'm wrong, took his virginity. Is that correct?
Yep.
So I noticed, I don't know what you thought, but there's this kind of weird motherly thing going on there where she's kind of cradling him, and
Yeah.
she's offering herself sexually, and he's just denying it and saying, "I just want to be held," which
Yeah.
I guess is kind of nice, but at the same time, it's just a little strange.
Yeah,
Um,
like you're too old. You're too old for that, bro. Like, come on. Like, Oedipus complex a little
well,
bit. Like, come on.
Well, what's funny is like the first thing I thought of was like, oh, the Unsullied. You see a scene in Game of Thrones where the Unsullied are going to some of the prostitutes, some of the whores in Marine, and they just want to be comforted, but they're getting killed. But what's funny is when I see that, I think, oh, okay, these poor men have layers to them. When I see Aemon do it, I'm just like, this guy's fucking weird. And so I don't know what the
Yeah.
difference is there, and
Yeah.
I think it's because they approach, what it is they're doing with their characters. They're approaching them very differently, and I'm attaching very different characteristics to these two different groups of people, or the Unsullied versus Aemond. Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, that was just the first thing I thought of. You get what I'm talking about?
I get exactly what you're talking about, and it makes me, think about the fact that like the Unsullied, the way that I interpreted it, they were going just to be comforted because that's all they could do because they
Yeah,
were
that's
all
true
like
because they're
castrated
eunuchs, right?
when
Yeah,
they're eunuchs, right? And so, but like when I first saw this with Aemon like laying down, in my mind I was like maybe he's at a point mentally where he's either like so like far gone that like he can't even think about sex, right? Like
yeah,
we talk about, you and I have talked about like people like that are like so evil, like fictional people like Palpatine, like maybe even like
Palpatine. Yeah,
Hitler, like people like that who are like just so evil, like so like mentally like on another plane that like they can't even like they don't even think about sex. They don't have sexual desires. And so like I
yeah.
liken that to maybe Aemon because like just because something up here is just not right, his sexual desires are like not really there anymore. Like just to be
Burning the
blunt,
whole
not
city
anymore.
with Vagar. Yeah, that's what gets him off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of I'm wondering if there's a connection there with his mom, like
Hmm.
Alicent. I'm wondering if there's something that has to maybe he didn't get that attention that he wanted from Alicent.
Yeah,
There just seems to be a lot of like parent-child dynamics going on here,
it's
like
weird.
parents screwed up their children, which I'm sure is common in Westeros with the royal families. But
Right.
so so back to it. He's only really looking for emotional comfort, and he actually admits to regretting that the death of Luke. He kind of regrets that it happened back near Storm's End. So Sylvie, she's glad to hear it, but she also reminds him, and I think this was actually an interesting thing she says. She says, when princes lose their tempers, it's often the small folk who suffer. And so I
Hmm.
thought that was really interesting because I didn't know if that was just a piece of wisdom that was coming in for her being an emotional support to him, or if she was like, I'm in a position to influence this guy, so I'm going to make sure I kind of plant the seeds for
Yeah.
him not to do anything. Um, who knows if that'll actually work? But elsewhere in the city, we get introduced to Hugh, this blacksmith. Actually, we were already introduced to him in the first episode,
Yep.
but this is where we kind of see his family life. So Hugh, aka Hard Hugh, aka Hugh the Hammer, he returns home to his family, and he was the blacksmith who was making the scorpions for the king. And so he's telling his family, his wife, they're dealing with a sick daughter. There's no food in King's Landing. There's a blockade. He's telling her that, oh, the king is going to give us advance payment for all of the scorpions that I've made. But, times are tough, and it really doesn't look like any food or money is going to come in anytime soon. And so the family just looks like they're really on hard times, and that's mainly to Corlys Valerian's blockade. So, yeah, it's interesting to see this character. Something notable is that he has really light hair.
Yeah.
He's got
I
some
noticed
really,
that.
really
And
light, kind of blonde. I don't know, blonde,
I,
silver, white hair.
I was like, makes me wonder. I was like, you look like you could be like,
Yeah,
maybe not. It can't be that.
it's an
I don't
elf,
know.
or I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'm like, that's a little familiar. I was like, why does that hair look so familiar, sir?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this character, what this character is all about.
For sure. Yeah, so then after that, we see it cuts Driftmark, and we see that Alan of Hull, he returns home to Driftmark, and he speaks with his younger brother Adam of Hull, and they're talking about the fact that Alan rescued Corlys Valerian, and that rewards may come of it. And Adam is telling him, and like, you should like make something of it. And Alan was like, nope, I don't want any reward. I don't want any of it. I was like, okay, wonder why we're hearing this, seeing this.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Corlys and Rhaenys in bed. They're having a discussion about Daemon potentially challenging Rhaenyra to the Iron Throne. And Rhaenys basically tells Corlys, like, you know, she was in that position where like the thought of the crown like looms over your head, and it's a very powerful like pull. It's a very powerful allure, right? And she basically says that we'll see what happens, but if Daemon does retake Harrenhal, then all could be forgiven. And then after this, we cut to Massaria, who we remember from season one. And Rhaenyra brings Mysaria up from her cell to interrogate her about her part in Jaehaerys' murder, as well as her involvement in the Greens crowning Aegon. And they go back and forth. Mysaria says that she regrets helping out the Greens, that Otto Hightower betrayed her and retaliated against her for extorting him. And she gave the names of two of her agents to Daemon in exchange for her captivity, and she begs Rhaenyra to stay true to Daemon's word. And after Mysaria assures her that she has no intent on betraying Rhaenyra, Rhaenyra agrees. And so, uh, yeah, I want to ask you just really quick. I feel like that scene between Rhaenys and Corlys was a great one when she just talks about like the crown and like how powerful like the allure is, and in this world, why do you think that allure, that pull, is just so powerful for everyone, like in general, like yeah, what is it, why is it so powerful?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of feel like the Iron Throne has reached this level where it's not just power, it's also like it's just become this huge symbol and kind of like this mythic status. And yeah, I really feel like everybody wants the crown. They don't really know, they don't realize the responsibility that comes with the crown.
Yeah.
But I think in this world, you don't even, for some rulers, you don't need that responsibility. You can just take that crown and rule. And I often wonder, like, is anyone getting paid? Like, how do they pay people? Are they giving them like gold dragons? Like, what are they doing? How does do you just get entitled to the treasury? I'm thinking of all these details, right? But
Right.
I think when people take the crown, I really do think they're not even really thinking about wealth or fame, notoriety, or any of the pleasures that come along with it. I really do think power kind of is very intoxicating in that regard. And because the Iron Throne and the crown looms large in the imagination of everybody in Westeros, even outside of Westeros, in Essos as well, I just feel like it is this kind of ultimate goal for a person on this mortal plane. You know, it's the closest you can get to like this godlike power.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I think it is alluring for a lot of people. It's like their North Star for some people. And side note, I really love scenes with Corlys and Rhaenys because they are like the best couple
Yes.
on all the shows, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's other couples that are genuine, but they just seem like they have so much chemistry and they're so genuine. Like it
Right.
feels like they're just like this old couple who's been through so much together and they're just real cool with each other. I don't know. Like, anyway,
Yeah,
just had
it's a it's one of the few genuine happy relationships
yes,
that we see in
exactly.
Game of Thrones. Like it's
I
such a
mean,
Westeros is so cruel of a world, but like this
yeah,
is like they actually like each other. Like they like talking to
yeah,
each other. Like they
not
support one another. They keep
exactly.
it real with one another.
Not just had kids and not just arranged marriage for like alliance. They actually like probably enjoy each other's company. Like they probably,
Exactly.
I don't know, go to shows together and, whatever, hang out and go to vacation and all that stuff. Never mind the
Exactly.
fact that Corlys, might have might have two kids. I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. And even then,
She
like,
seems, yeah,
yeah,
she seems to be okay with it.
like the coolest woman ever,
Yeah,
like ever, literally. But more to come on that.
yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, so we cut back to King's Landing, and Aegon, he executes all of the rat catchers in the city, which we see includes Cheese, the one who was involved in the killing of Prince Jaehaerys. The small folk are horrified. Everybody's seeing these hanged people from the roofs of all the buildings. Otto, he hears of this and he is livid. This guy is irate. I've never seen this guy like this, honestly.
Man, oh man,
He goes into this chamber where Aegon is and he just demands an explanation. Now, Aegon admits to Otto, or he admits that he's the one who ordered the execution of all the rat catchers. And Otto just straight up calls him an idiot. So Kristen
It's so
Cole, who's in the
sad.
room, Kristen Cole's in the room with him, and he tells Otto, "Hey, you can't talk to the king like that. You gotta watch your disrespectful tone." And I loved this line. He says, "The king is my grandson, and my grandson is a fool." And if you had heard it, the
Oh,
way he said it was just dripping with contempt. It was
yeah.
fantastic. I was getting some real like parallel universe Tywin and Joffrey vibes because
Thank
right,
you.
right,
Thank you. Thank you.
right.
Same.
Because I mean, I don't know that I'd see Tywin as angry as Otto was in that moment, but I also don't think I would have ever seen Joffrey as kind of like I don't know, saying it with his chest, like like
Mhm.
Aegon was. He was just kind of like, yeah, I did it, so what? But Otto tells Aegon, your actions have destroyed any goodwill and sympathy that the Greens have gained. He was trying to use this opportunity, and yes, because Otto, ever the pragmatist, ever the cold, calculating strategist, he used the death of Prince Jaehaerys as an opportunity. And so the royal house, he tells Aegon, the royal houses might have thought Rhaenyra cruel, but Aegon screwed that up because now all the
Yep.
small folk and the royal houses eventually are going to see that Aegon just hung a bunch of people. Those were husbands and fathers and brothers.
Yeah.
So Aegon fires back that Otto's just been taken too damn long. He wants him to spill blood, not ink. And Aegon says, "At least Kristen has done something." And then we get like my second favorite part where Otto's face is just priceless. He looks at this with the most exasperated expression of, what did you do? And Aegon tells him, well, Sir Eric is going over to Dragonstone to impersonate his brother. So basically, the Parent Trap. They're going to do this little Parent Trap plan, and Otto is not impressed at all. After a brief back and forth, Aegon says Viserys named me king on his deathbed. And Otto says, yeah, is that what you think? And he leaves, but not before Aegon says, you know what? You're not my hand anymore. He removes him his hand and he makes Kristen Cole hand instead. And Otto says, you're going to regret this decision.
Mm.
So oh man,
Oh
I
man, what a
know
scene.
you listed this. Yeah, I know you listed this as a favorite. So Calvin, tell me, what'd you think of this scene?
Man, this is I don't this is Game of Thrones at its best, man. Like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones universe, right?
Oh yeah.
We saw a scene earlier in this episode between Matt Smith, Emma Darcy, Damon and
Hmm.
Rhaenyra. But I've got to give it to this actor and Carlos helped me out here. His name is like Reese. I don't know how
Oh
to say his name exactly, but
yeah,
Reese
Reese
Ifans.
Reese Ifans. Yeah,
Ifans,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
he was the lizard in Amazing Spider-Man.
oh,
Doctor.
he was.
Yeah, he. I forgot his name.
Yeah. In the that was in the
Yeah.
second one, right? Or the first one?
The first one. Yeah, the first one.
And you know who else he played? He played Xenophilius Lovegood in the last
Ah,
Harry
yes,
Potter
that's right.
film.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
you
sure
reminded
did.
me. I was like, he's in another thing, and yeah, you just said it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I gotta give it to Reese, man. What an amazing actor, right? Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
here's the
absolutely.
thing. What we don't usually see is measured, calculated pragmatists like Otto Hightower lose their cool. And
Yes.
when
Hmm.
someone like them loses their cool, it's just a treat to see because they can really go in and like tear the person apart. Like completely
Yeah.
rip them to shreds like verbally, right? It reminds me of
Oh
how like if
yes.
like Tywin like this is like something that we would have seen Tywin do if Tywin were to ever have gotten that emotional or that angry. But like Tywin was always measured, even when Tyrion had the bow pointing at him. He was still
I was
like
just gonna
calm as the
say. I was gonna
best.
say he almost lost his shit.
He
Well, yeah,
did.
no pun intended. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
he
he
did.
almost lost.
He was on. Yeah. Yeah, no, he did, because after Tyrion shot him, he was like, "You've always been like
Oh
that." He
yeah,
was
that's
like,
right.
"Yeah,
After that first shot, he was
yeah,
like, "Oh, I'm about to die, so I'm gonna let him have it."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly." So, what was I saying? But yeah, no, it was just amazing because again, you don't see characters like him who are like always calm, collected, like the pragmatists, like the people who really run the kingdom, right? You never really see them lose their cool, and you have a situation where Aegon, he's like this like young dumb fool who is trying to act all powerful and tough, and who's also grieving. Who he tried.
Hmm.
Otto is just outnumbered, right? He doesn't have the power and control that he thinks he has over Aegon, right? And you also have Kristen Cole, who's just all messed up in the head anyway. Like, who knows
Yeah.
what he's thinking
Yeah.
and doing on any given day. And so you kind of see where these, honestly, if I can say it like this, where these two dummies are kind of like a little too in control. And Otto Hightower, he just has to like make his way out. But he didn't go out without a bang, though. He went out with a
Oh yeah,
bang for sure. So
definitely.
that was a
I,
treat.
I will say props to the maester who taught him because this guy is verbose. Like he was saying ill-considered,
Yeah.
trifling, feckless. Like I was like, preach, man, keep going. Yeah, I'm learning words here. But I want to echo what you're saying. Honestly, this guy he knows all the tools of statecraft. That's what I love about this guy. He knows diplomacy, he knows intelligence, he knows military, he knows propaganda, like information warfare. This guy knows all of that and he knows how to create an integrated strategy. And usually, when you have guys like this, they are in an advisory position because they're very good at influencing. And that's like his power, right? He leads these councils and he like moves and prods and pushes where he needs to. And now he's in front of two guys where they're just too stupid. Like
Yeah.
he can't overpower them with his intellect. So he's getting angry
Yeah.
and not he's saying the truth and they're just like F off, you old man. And he's just like, you're going to regret this. And another thing I love is that in season 1, I really didn't like this guy. I mean, the actor is incredible. This
Yeah.
character is incredible. When I don't like a character, I'm like, this actor is amazing. But Otto Hightower as a character, I was like, this guy is a conniving and merciless schemer. But now he's this shrewd, like we said, calculating, mature statesman.
Yeah.
And something that I liked is in this scene, you kind of get the feeling that he has a code. And that was, why are you killing innocent people? Maybe he doesn't necessarily care about the innocent people, but he's like, we don't kill wantonly, you know?
Yeah. And the
We
perception, like, it
don't.
can hurt the crown.
Yes, it can hurt the crown, it can hurt us. We don't want to do this unnecessarily. You are screwing it up, and the small folk are powerful, and we need to keep them in a certain area. It's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm the king and I'll do what I want. He's like, no, no, no. And so that's something I really appreciated about how Reese was playing this character in that moment. And another question, because I just got to ask you this. Laris is the one who planted the seeds in Aegon's mind. Why why did Laris dislike Otto this much when they were aligned? Like, why, if he was trying to get Aegon to kick Otto out, why would Laris want that? Like, what do you think? I don't know if we could just answer that real quick.
Yeah. This, if I can answer real quick, yeah. I think that Le- from what I can see and understand about Lair so far and how we've seen him, I don't think he likes people around him, around power, that are smarter than him.
That's
I,
good. I like that.
I
Yeah.
don't think he likes people
He
that are. He wants to be the smart. He wants to have the most power, like behind this. He wants to be a.
or the most influence.
He wants to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the
that's
most
true.
influential, and he knows how smart and calculated and shrewd Otto Hightower is. And I
Oh
think he
yeah.
said to himself, as long as Otto Hightower is there, like he's who I need to get rid of. So let me push him out of the way,
Yeah,
and then I can become, Aegon's like number one confidant and number one
that's true.
influencer
Yeah.
over everyone else.
That's why I wanted to ask you because I really didn't know. I was thinking about it and I didn't know, but that's a great point. He was
Yeah,
like, maybe Otto doesn't want what I want.
right.
So I gotta and he probably is like, I can't influence this guy. He's too smart.
Yeah,
So I gotta discredit him. So that's good. Yeah.
absolutely. And well, while we're on it, man, I saw a really quick question. You can answer this really quick. It's if you had to choose someone to be your hand, and you could only choose between Otto Hightower and Tywin Lannister, who are you choosing and
Oh,
why?
damn. Oh my God.
Choosing.
I don't know. I don't know. Am I family with them? With one of them?
Yeah, you could choose
Like,
for
am
them
I
to
a
be your
Lannister or
family.
a Hightower?
No, yeah, you could choose
Oh,
like yeah,
because if I'm family, then they got my back.
right.
But if I'm not family, that's tough.
And also, wasn't
That,
Tywin Lannister hand of the king to the Mad King too?
yeah,
He was, yeah.
I would say, yeah, he was. I would, I would say Otto because I think, I don't know, something about Tywin I just don't, I don't trust. I feel like he would sacrifice me if he needed to. Whereas Hightower Otto might use me to his advantage, but I don't know that he would sacrifice me. But I feel like Tywin, he would throw me to the wolves or
Yeah.
the lions, what have you. Yeah. So that I don't know. That's just what I imagine. I don't know. But maybe I can get Tywin to like me. I don't know.
I know, but you got to do like everything right for him to like you. You got to like, marry.
Oh man,
If you do
jeez.
what he says, he'll like you,
Gotta
basically.
I gotta learn to skin an elk like with by
I-
myself.
Go back to this first scene, and Charles Dance, the actor, was actually doing that. That was an actual horse, and he was actually
Oh
doing that.
really?
Yeah,
Oh that's crazy. Yeah,
that is
that
crazy.
guy's badass.
No, he is. He's next level. Yeah, thanks for humoring me. All right, so next scene. So we see after this, Rhaenyra goes to Myseria's cell to free her, and while Mysaria is on her way to the shore to leave Dragonstone for good, she notices Eric with an A, the twin, amongst the passengers, like coming into Dragonstone. So she kind of makes a look, and then I guess she turns around and alerts them, but not before Eric is able to fool the guards and he gets right into the castle, right? And he makes his way eventually into Rhaenyra's private chambers, and the only people in there are Rhaenyra and her handmaiden. And before this, we see that he asked the guard to switch places. He said, "Hey, I'll take over duty." And guy thinks it's Eric with an E, so he's like, "Yeah, of course, yeah, sure. You want to take it? Okay, cool. Are you sure? Great." So he goes in, sees Rhaenyra and the handmaiden, and Rhaenyra's like, "Oh, Eric, what are you doing here?" And then realizes that it's actually Eric with an A, right? And she's like, "Oh shoot!" So he's walking towards her, but not before Eric with an E comes bursting in. He says,
Oh
"Brother!" calls
man.
him, turns
Yeah.
around, and
Jeez.
then we get crazy, amazing,
The
sad
cargo fight.
a cargo fight, the twins fight. They're duking it out. So much happens. We can't even explain it, but they're going at it, and then Eric has Rhaenyra at one point, but then Eric is able to like pull him off, and they're like fighting and fighting, and then Eric is on top of Eric, and he's like, "Brother, don't do this," something to that effect. And then he's like, "I've got to." Puts his hand inside of his wound to get on top of him, but
Ah, yeah,
then
that was
Eric
ugly.
kills Eric with the A, and then he gets the upper hand, kills his brother, and then you have this moment where you're like, okay, cool, but which Eric is it? Is it the traitor Eric? Is it the one who is protecting Rhaenyra? But then Eric turns around, he says, "I'm sorry, my queen," and then he stabs himself with his sword, and then Rhaenyra just has this look of like horror and sadness,
Oh yeah.
and that's it.
That
So
was
yeah,
that was so much.
yeah, what did you we have to gloss over because there's just so much that happens in that fight. But what did you think about this fight, man? Like
Well,
this whole
are
scene.
we sure? So do we know who killed who? Uh,
I I was looking it up, and it says like Eric with an E survived, but
okay, all right.
it does say, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
guess
what.
that would make sense. That would make sense though, because he does look at her and he's like, "Forgive me."
Yeah, that's how he gives her
Um,
forgiveness. Yeah, because he could have been
oh
like,
man,
yeah, I don't know. He could have lied and said, "Hey, it's me," if it was Eric with the A, right? So,
yeah, man.
or
If it was Eric with an A and he still was like, "Forgive me," like in that moment, he was just like, man,
what did
all
I
of his
do?
politics just went out the window. Yeah, he just
Right.
like, I killed my brother. I'm sorry, Queen Rhaenyra. Like, Man, whatever. Regardless, this scene was really intense. It was really sad. It was really heartbreaking. I was heartbroken. I knew it was coming, but still, it's just tough to see, especially the emotion on their faces. You know, when you hear about it, when you read about it in the book, you don't know details because nobody was really there to give their. It's just a song that is sung in like by the bards and by the entertainers at the local pub or whatever. So you don't really know the details, but seeing it, it's really sad. It's a shame that these two, who are always being talked down to, or being questioned, their loyalty was being questioned just because they had a brother that was on the other side, called traitors, and now they sacrificed themselves for the good of their respective teams. And in the end, who lost? They did. They lost because that sacrifice came, I don't know. I mean, was it even worth it? They lost the one person that they love the most in this world, you know? So and kinslaying again, like this, there's so much kinslaying going on, this theme of kinslaying, but yeah, I don't know. What did you think?
It reminded me of the quote that you said, mentioned earlier, that Sylvie said to, I think her name was Sylvie, said, Aemond, when she said, when princes lose their temper, small folks suffer the most. And I think this is exactly an example of that, like, yeah, the King's Guard, but at the end of the day, like, I still consider them to be in that realm of
They're
smoke,
not.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All this because the family, the Targaryen family, is like warring against one another, and that forced them to choose sides, and it forced them to kill one another. And so, like, I think Sylvie's right, like, it's all this for what? And it's just really, really sad. I mean, incredible acting from these twin actors. Really, really cool to see
Yeah.
them, go this hard. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, again, just shows you how cruel the world of Westeros is. And man, and how we'll talk about this
Well,
later, but like how MVP Eric is, he was like, brother, like,
oh
you're
yeah.
not doing this, like they were
Yeah.
like these
Jeez.
like they were so committed to their respective causes that they were willing to fight and kill one another to the end. Like, what does that say about them as people? The fact that they were so loyal that it's like, I'm so loyal, I'll kill my own brother.
Yeah. They took their oaths seriously, even though like Eamon says many years from now, he says, what are oaths but wind and words? And these guys took it to heart. Like they were really committed, and it's tragic. It's incredible that these two people were so loyal, but it is so tragic. I do want to, on a lighter note, highlight that Eric with an A. That guy's a gaslighter too, because he walks up to that door and they're like, "Oh, so Eric, I thought you were inside," and he straight up says, "Oh, a sorry lack of vigilance." Like, "Oh, you were wrong. Like, I'm out
Yeah.
here." I just thought that was so funny. I was like, the balls on this guy,
Yeah,
the
like
audacity.
coming in and
Right.
gaslighting, like, get out of here.
Yeah. Just straight up like, well, you were wrong. I'm out here. So let me in. And they're like, oh, sorry, sir. So, okay. So after that really horrible, tragic scene, we cut back to King's Landing, where in private, Otto tells Alicent that she really needs to control Aegon and Kristen because he's going to leave court. There's really no reason for him to be there anymore. He's not the hand, so she needs to do everything in her power to try to avert war. But he doesn't believe that war can be averted, really. So he intends to return to Old Town, and he mentions Alicent's youngest son, Darren. Darren he's in Old Town, and I believe Otto is on his way to go mentor Darren. Alicent instead urges him to go to Highgarden. She says, maybe you can ensure House Tyrell and their bannermen can support us in the war that's coming up, or that might come. So before he leaves, Alicent tries to confess to her father that, oh, I've sinned and, I got to tell you this thing. And Otto's like, it's okay. I don't want to know, which
He's
is
like,
probably
kill
for the
it.
best.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I
stop.
just don't tell me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to know either. Not for my daughter.
yeah.
But returning to her chambers, Alicent She notices Aegon in his room. And this was an interesting scene because this guy's really sad. Like all the dumb crap that he's been doing.
Come
This
on.
guy is really blubbering, and you
Yeah.
kind of feel for the guy. You kind of
Yeah.
feel like, man, this guy's a sad, lonely coward. And I mean, that's what cowards are when they have this, they feel this pain inside of them and they try to spread that pain to other people. But at the end of the day, they're just a sad sack of a human being. That's what a coward is. And that's unfortunately what this guy is. And it really does make you question, like, is this guy evil or is this guy just like in a lot of pain? At least that's what I was thinking of. But she notices him, and I'm gonna say, Allison, she went in there. She had good intentions, and then she just straight up was like, "I don't have time for this. I don't have the energy. I got somebody waiting in my room, so I'm gonna go." And she leaves, and she goes to her room. She wins Best Mom Award. She just gets out of
Best
that
mom
room.
ever. Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to comfort my grieving son. I want to.
Yeah, whose
Yeah.
child just died. Yeah, I got some business to take care of, a private meeting. So you just see her start to undress a little bit, and then who do we see sitting on the bed? Kristen Dickhead Cole. Yeah, this guy doesn't deserve what's about to happen in that bed. Um,
He does not.
he
He
really did.
doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah. And then we kind of close. We see this like weird kinky scene where she starts hitting him and then they start going at it. So
Yeah, I'm like,
that was
wow,
interesting.
Game of Thrones really like expanding their horizons when it comes to these scenes. I was like, oh, that's what we're doing now? What is this, 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. Okay. And that wraps up another epic episode of Epic Saga Society.
We hope you enjoyed diving into today's story as much as we did. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast. If you have any comments about the show, the episode, if you agree with us on some things, if you disagree with us, if you had different favorite scenes, let us know in the comments down below. Your support helps us bring more epic saga to life.
All right. This is Carlos and
Calvin,
signing off from Epic Saga Society.
stay epic.